Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. My name is Alexandra Alvarado. I'm the Director of Marketing and Education here at the American Apartment Owners Association. I'm so glad you could join us for this topic. We are going to talk about maximizing profits, something all of us should want to do, and particularly in 2024, what are some of those new opportunities for you all? But before we get started, I just want to give you the regular spiel. We will be recording this whole thing and sending it to you tomorrow. So if you miss anything, don't worry. However, I do encourage you to stick around because we will have a Q&A with our speakers, and we'll be going through that at the end of the presentation. You can put your questions in the Q&A box, preferably not the chat, just so that we don't miss anything there. We have with us two wonderful speakers today from Inago. We all love Inago here. It's a great property management software, but they are also really just experts in the tech space. And I think, as we approach the future to what 2024 is, we really need to look at tech and also just strategy, right? So it's a mix of both that really makes the biggest difference. So we have with us Tanvir Sattar. Tanvir is the Director of Business Development at Inago. And we also have with us Mary Regano, the Senior Marketing Program Manager at Inago. I'll let them introduce themselves to you just a little bit, and they'll take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you. Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Mary. I've been working at Inago for just about 6 months. I started back in August, but I've been using Inago for over 5 years now to manage our rental properties. I invest in rental properties, but I'm also a house hacker. So the building that I currently live in, we own, and we live in the top 2 floors and we rent out the bottom 2 floors. I live here with my husband. I have well, actually he's 13 months now. So this slide was made last month. So it's a little, he's a little bit older. And then we have a 2-year-old puppy as well.
Awesome. All right. And a little bit about me. So I've been with Inago for 6 years. I've been in real estate investment for 8 years. I'm on the sales team here at Inago. Right after college, what I did is I helped my dad with some investment properties. Eventually got my own. My wife is a property manager as well. She manages about 150 properties. So a lot of life experience to lean on today, as well as our Inago experience. Outside of Inago, I really enjoy soccer. And yeah, let's get this kicked off today. So what we're going to cover is, first, I'll hop into more revenue related topics. So how to increase revenue, what fees to charge tenants, how to increase rent prices, and then Mary will hop into how to reduce general expenses, minimize financial and utility costs, and then last but not least, decrease vacancy rates. But before we get started, obviously Mary and I have a lot of great experiences. We are Inago employees as well. So some of our experiences today will be just talking to you as one investor to another, right? Whether it's up over, like, could be over a cup of coffee or lunch or something like that. So please do not take this as legal advice. Mary and I do not have law degrees. We are not saying this to solicit Inago or anything like that. This is just one investor to another. So take it as is, okay? So with that being said, let's get started. First things first is increasing revenue. And a couple ways to add new revenue streams is, first one up here is cleaning services. So this one hits home for me because I actually just went through this last week. So I have a unit that is going to turn over, and the tenants, they did not do a great job of cleaning. So what I did is I always get the property professionally cleaned beforehand, before a tenant moves in. That way expectations are set, and I want it to look like that when the tenants move out. Life happens, things happen, right? But the problem is now the property does not look good. I'm going through showings. People are saying like, wow, this does not look like the pictures at all, right? So the last thing I want is someone thinking they're getting played. So I reached out to the cleaning service and I said, hey, can you come clean? I talked to the tenant about it. They were fine with it. They understood that, it didn't meet expectations. But what I should have done is I should have introduced the cleaning service to the tenant when they moved in, and they could have had a monthly cleaning set up, because obviously they didn't have the time to clean. So a good piece of advice for us is just whatever cleaning service you use, if you don't use one, look into it. And maybe you can introduce the tenant to the cleaning service. The nice thing there is now your tenants can use that service. You can upcharge if you want to, but even if you just do the introduction, the nice thing is now the tenant is, you have a relationship with the cleaning team too. So you can say, hey, I want the fridge coils cleaned once a month. Can you please make sure that they are changing the air filters with the air condition? Can you, baseboards really get dirty in this property. Can you make sure you touch those once a quarter? Something like that. So you can also, even if you're not charging the tenant, even if you just introduced them, you have a relationship with that cleaning service. So use it. All right. Next one up is storage spaces. So with storage spaces, there's a lot of places in the property that you might be able to use as storage space. Maybe there's some empty space in the basement, throw up some cages, and then you're able to rent those out. What we usually see is anywhere from 50 to 100 bucks per month. Just really depends on the size and where you live. But nowadays tenants have golf clubs, they have winter activities, summer activities, and they need a place to have put those. So take advantage of storage units. And I think Mary has a story to share with us as well.
Yeah, I do. One example that we've seen a lot here for storage spaces, I am based in Chicago. I don't know if I mentioned that before. But one thing that we see a lot of is bikes, actually. So here in Chicago, it's very common to have your bike stolen. Even if you have it locked up outside, people will steal the parts. So again, even if you have it locked up, it's not safe. And so if you can offer bike storage, and if you've got, an unused basement or a room in your building that you can't rent out for whatever reason, using it for bike storage is a great way in a place like Chicago or any city like that, to just offer a little bit of something to your tenants that they can't get elsewhere. They don't have to put it in their apartment then, and you can charge them a little extra for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. Next up, satellite TV, right? A lot of people nowadays don't use satellite TV, right? So, but they do use cable TV over the internet. So what we see, rule of thumb, if you have 5 or more units, try to contact one of the internet TV providers. Just see if you can get a lower rate if you sign up for 5 units. The nice thing there is you're going to get a lower rate for your tenants, and you can upcharge, or you can just add it as a monthly charge to the rental invoice. Either one's fine. But if it's just 1 unit, we'd recommend, make sure you have over 5 units to do this. Last one on this slide is going to be corporate housing. With corporate housing, nowadays, a lot of people work from home. So when they have to come into the office, it's already a struggle for them. They don't want to stay in hotels anymore. So check your local area, what companies are around. Look for an HR person, maybe on LinkedIn, maybe a friend of a friend knows them. Try to find out someone who helps out with corporate housing, build a relationship with them. And the nice thing about having corporate housing is you're going to have an already staged property. So when your prospective tenants come in and this property is not being used, you can show it to the prospective tenants. And then last but not least, you can look at other revenue streams too. Like, can you put this property on Airbnb or VRBO or something like that? That way you can monetize it all throughout the year if the corporate housing is seasonal. All right. Next up, a couple pie in the sky ones, and then a couple ones that are more closer to home. So first off, leasing a billboard. One thing we always say is check your state and local law on this, right? Don't put a billboard up in the city of Cincinnati. If you did this, billboard would come down the next day, okay? But there are other cities, other locations where you can lease a billboard. Obviously, startup costs is a lot, but if you can generate anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month. And leasing a cell phone tower, right? We've seen in the last 5 years it go from 3G, 4G, 5G. I'm sure 6G is right around the corner. And needs to be a spot for all these towers to go, because a 5G tower and 4G tower still needs to work in some areas. So 6G needs to find a space. We have one customer on Inago. They make more money on leasing the cell phone towers than they do in the commercial rental unit that they're renting. So the startup cost is a lot, but we can see anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month from cell phone towers. All right, next two, a little more common. So adding coin laundry. So for that basement we were talking about, you can look online, Facebook Marketplace, you can go to Craigslist, you can find some used washer and dryers. Maintenance isn't that bad on them. And you can get anywhere from 50 to 250 bucks a month. Just really depends how many tenants you have in the unit. And when these tenants are doing their laundry, the nice thing you can add there is a vending machine. Again, go to Craigslist, go to Facebook Marketplace, find a used vending machine, and then you can just replenish that with snacks from maybe a Costco or Sam's Club, something like that. Just other ideas outside of the box of ways that you can increase revenue at your apartments. All right, and we'll check with Alexandra for poll question number 1.
Great. Let me go ahead and launch that question. Hopefully I can get it to launch here. Give me just a moment. Well, I am having some difficulty here with launching this question, and I'm not too sure why. Let me go ahead and try to get here a new poll detail. And oh, I got it to work. Sorry about that, folks. All right. The question is, did you charge a fee other than rent in 2023? Yes or no? And go ahead and put that in there. I'll give you guys about 30 seconds or so. So make sure to put in your answer quick. We're curious to hear if you are charging additional fees. And hopefully you are. And if you're not, this may give you some good ideas. So let's give it a few more seconds here. All right. So let's go ahead and show the results here. So it looks like we have 38% that said yes and 63% said no.
Wow, okay. Cool, that's good to know. Well, then these next couple slides will definitely hit home then. So let's look at some fees that you can charge to tenants for next year so we can get that number to 100%. So charging fees. First off, late payment fees, right? So that's an easy one. A lot of people don't enforce late payment fees. What I've seen from my work experience in Nago is, oh, those people things I hear on the phone. Oh, those people don't pay till the 15th. It's like, well, who said that they don't have to pay till the 15th, right? They've started paying on the 15th and you said it's okay. I'm just going to take the rent because it's half the month's already gone. And they know now that every time they can go next month, the month after, pay you on the 15th and they'll never get charged a late fee. The nice thing about Inago is that you can use Inago to automatically charge late fees. Now, if something honest comes up, like, something happens, you can waive that automatically. But the nice thing is the system does it for you. So when they go in online to pay rent, that late fee is already there. So that's a really quick and easy one to add to revenue streams. Next up, pet fee. So we see anywhere from 50 to 100 bucks on a pet fee per month. Obviously keep the animal size. You can't charge the same that you charge for a Pomeranian compared to a pit bull, but do what you got to do there. And then for the pet deposit, we see anywhere from $100 to $300. Just really depends on where you are at in the market. Next up is going to be application fees. So you can charge for your time of reviewing the application to the prospective tenants. So take advantage of that. With Inago, you can do that. It's very easy to add and you're charging for your time. Next up is going to be lease termination fees, right? Make sure you have this in your lease. Hopefully you never have to charge it. Hopefully the tenants see their lease out, but life happens and sometimes they need to break the lease. So we have seen anywhere from 1 month to all the way up to 3 months worth of rent. Check with your state and local law first, okay? Again, check with your state and local law. I would do that because, like, for instance, we were just talking to some people from Austin in our last webinar, and just because the state law in Texas is one thing doesn't mean the city of Austin does something else. So always check state and local law there. Next up, extra occupancy, right? So I grew up, my family is from Bangladesh. So we were accustomed 10 people being in a 1-bedroom apartment. That was just normal for me. Not until I went off to college did I see that, 2 people in a 2-bedroom is actually what it's supposed to be. But definitely charge your tenants for extra space. So if it is a 2-bedroom and it's only supposed to be 2 adults in there and they want to have 2 couples in there, check with state and local law first, and maybe you can charge for some extra occupants there. Last but not least, landscaping fees. So is it on you or is it on the tenant to manage the landscaping? Well, if it's on the tenant, charge them to do it. If it's not on them, maybe you can put it in the rent, but totally up to you. All right, so I know we went through a lot of fees there. Go ahead and put those in the Q&A. We'll get to those at the end of the slideshow. Next up is going to be increasing rent prices. Again, so Again, only caveat here, we're not telling you to collude. We're just saying ways that you can look at the market and make an educated decision based on where the market's at. And before we get in there, we're going to go to poll question number 2.
All right, just put that poll question up. And when you evaluate your rental market, which of the following do you do? Create pricing tiers, use online resources, hit the streets, love that, old school, network with other landlords. So we will see what the results come in for this. Very interesting because I think the answers to this question would have been a lot different even 5 years ago or 10
Mm-hmm.
years ago. So let me just give a little more time here. All right, looks like most of you have participated, so I'll go ahead and show the results. All right, it's mostly online now, 86%, with the others kind of following after that. But that really is the main way to evaluate the rental market right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's talk about that and then the other 3 as well. So um, let's see. So tips for evaluating your market. So first off, it sounds like the majority of you are doing that, using online resources like Zillow, Realtor.com, Zumper.com to check pricing. Another way to do that is hitting the streets, right? For every property that's online, there's another property that just has a for rent sign in the yard or outside the apartment building. So what you want to do is just pick up the phone and call these people. These people are your peers, and I've been in other associations, other communities. And what I've really found personally is that this is a very welcoming community. So if you pick up the phone and call a landlord, odds are they're probably going to give you some answers that you usually don't see from other industries, right? We don't like to hold everything in. We want to help people. We want to help people find other passive income, or maybe this is your 9 to 5 and a way to get better. So pick up the phone, give them a call, get an understanding, network with them. Say, hey, what's the usual demographic of the people moving in? I have a 2-bedroom right now. When's the last time you rented out a 2-bedroom? You know, what is your thought process to get to that price? So talk to them. And last but not least, there with the networking, the nice thing is you're networking with a landlord or a realtor in your area. So not only have you created a relationship, you can also talk to them, and maybe the next time they have a deal that they they can't afford or it just doesn't make sense for them, they might pass that on to you, right? They might say, hey, I met Tanvir. He's really interested in growing his portfolio. Let me pass this on to him. Or if they're trying to get out of the market, you've created a relationship where that they can lean on you now for advice or maybe even to buy them out. So ideas there. And then last but not least, creating pricing tiers. I think this one's big because in the city of Cincinnati, I have different prices for different rentals based on the neighborhood. And I think that's something you definitely should do and look at with your properties, because all that's going to do is help you find the best market rate, find the best tenants for the properties that you have, and then keep your vacancy low or vacancy rate really low. Okay. All right. And then how and when to increase rent prices. I think we've already beat this one up. Evaluate the market, right? A lot of people are going out online, evaluate. Next up is you can improve your existing property. So do you have a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, but the second bedroom is huge, or maybe the first bedroom is huge? Can you make this now a 2-bedroom, 2-bath? So instead of a young couple or a couple trying to, their needs are 2-bed, 2-bath for when their in-laws come into town, now you've made that second bedroom a little smaller, but now you've given them a 2-bed, 2-bath where now they're not like looking at the property and thinking, how are 4 people going to shower on the weekend when our mom and dads are visiting? Next up, implementing high-tech features. So things like a Ring camera, Nest thermostat. People really, really like that. And they look for that nowadays in a property. And last but not least, investing in green technology. That is going to definitely help you reduce costs. And someone who knows how to reduce costs is Mary. So she's going to take us through that.
Thanks, Tanvir.
Mm-hmm.
The segue gets better every time. Yeah, so Tanvir talked about how to increase your revenue. I'm going to talk about how to reduce your costs. I know it's not quite as fun as the increasing revenue, but it is just as important to that equation of how to ultimately get better profits out of our properties. So You can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so the first one I'm going to talk about is lowering utility costs, and you can flip to the next slide. But as you guys are thinking about this, I would think in two ways. So one is that we can reduce our utility costs by reducing our monthly bill, so how much we're actually paying in the services themselves. But the second piece is the actual longevity of those appliances that we're using. So things like, how long does your water heater last for? How long does, is your HVAC good for? And the longer we can make those last for us and kind of put off some of those larger expenses, that's also a big help in addition to trying to cut down on those monthly service costs as well. So Tanvi already touched on green appliances. This is a great one because it applies to a way to increase your rent, but it's also, or sorry, increase your rent revenue. But it's also a way to reduce your utility costs depending on who's covering which type of utility for your particular units. Another thing to look at is insulating your windows. So for insulating your windows, you actually have a couple different options here that range in price. So the most expensive and obviously most effective way is to update your windows, to go ahead and get new ones put in that are going to be just the most efficient that you can get. But that can be expensive, especially if you've got a more custom fitting or depending on the requirements for your area and your particular type of building. You can be looking at anywhere from, several hundred to thousands of dollars to update your windows. So two other options that you have to help with this that are a little bit more cost effective. One, you can look into resealing. This typically costs about $130 is what we've seen, and it can help to reduce some of those costs of the airflow going out the window. And then the second one is actually putting plastic up on the windows. And every time I say that, I always get a little bit of like a cringe because I know there's kind of that aesthetic of the plastic on the windows. But as somebody who was kind of against it and has now put plastic up on some of the windows in our properties, I do highly suggest it, especially if you're trying to spread out some of those costs that you're looking at. So rather than going out and getting those new windows right away, this can help you to kind of float it for a little bit longer. And if you put blinds up, and especially if you do it on windows that are higher up from the street, it's really not quite as bad as I had originally thought it could be. So something to definitely look into if you're seeing higher costs from things like that. Another one on this list, changing your air filters. I actually would probably say of all the ones on this list, this is the most important one from my personal perspective. One, I'm saying that because my father-in-law was an HVAC guy, and so he would probably want me to bold and underline that one because he's seen so many different types of HVAC systems in his experience. But more so than that, because this can help you with both sides of that utility equation. So this is going to help you to increase the life of your furnace, and it's also going to help to reduce your monthly bills. It's also super easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of time. And something that we do with our properties is we actually have our tenants do it because they're incentivized to do it because they want to have, good heating in their units. And we're incentivized to do it because we want to keep our costs low. So what we do is we put the air filters in the unit before they move in so that it's already supplied for them. And then we use Enago to send out a monthly or whatever your cadence is for changing your air filters. We send them out a reminder and say, hey, time to change your air filters, don't forget. And then they go in and do it. And it's simple and easy. It takes them about 5 minutes and, both sides are happy. So definitely something that you should be doing if you're not already doing it. The fourth one on the list here, changing your light bulbs. So something to look into is changing from incandescent to LED. There's a lot of benefits there. LED light bulbs are going to be about 10x more efficient than an incandescent light bulb. But I think even more important than that is that LED light bulbs can last for up to 25 years, whereas an incandescent is only going to last for about 6 months to a year. And we've all gotten that super annoying maintenance request from somebody who says, hey, when my light bulb's out, can you come change it? And it's one of those things where you got to, either get in the car yourself, go out, drive out to the property and change that light bulb for them, or you have to get one of your maintenance guys to do it. So it costs you time and money to do that. And if you can change out your light bulbs and increase again that life before you have to actually go and change it, it's going to save you that time and energy. Number 5 on the list here is using shady landscaping. So this is a, kind of a maybe semi obvious one, but can be quite effective. So if you have the ability to put up some shrubs or trees or something to block out some of that sun in the summer to reduce the air bills for you, this can be a great one to look into. And then the last two there are specific to your water heater. So there's 2 different things that we would recommend for this. One is to look into your water heater settings. You can look to lower them. So I'm not saying to put cold water for your tenants, but sometimes there's a way to lower it so hot isn't scalding, but it's still hot. On one of the webinars that we gave, somebody asked, how do I know? What do I do? How do I do this? And I actually looked into it, and energy.gov has a really great step-by-step guide for how to do this and how to actually track it. So if this is something that you're interested in, I encourage you to check out that resource and look into it. And then the final one for the water heater is a water heater blanket. So that is what it sounds like. It's a blanket that you wrap around your water heater, and it's going to help to make it more efficient. And what we've found is that this can help, this can pay for itself within about a year of using them. But I preface that by saying, if you already have an efficient water heater, you are not going to get any increased efficiency from putting a blanket around it. Or if you have a new water heater that you've just installed, don't also go and buy a blanket to do this. This is really for those of you that have maybe a little bit of an older water heater, or again, one that's not running quite as efficiently. And this can help you to just reduce this cost and maybe increase the life of that water heater for a little bit longer. All right, the next section that we're going to talk about is financial expenses. Okay. All right, first one, taking advantage of all of your tax breaks. So there's a ton of tax breaks in real estate, especially if you are doing any type of remodeling work. So if you're not looking into this already, then you absolutely should be. I always think of taxes as, I want to be smart enough to be dangerous. And my definition of that is, I want to know what kind of information do I need to collect on an annual basis, and what type of questions should I be answering. But aside from that, we hire a CPA, and the CPA takes care of all of our tax forms for us. I highly suggest looking into something like that. We've found that it's worth the cost. 1, because they've found tax breaks for us. 2, because they file our taxes for us on time and save us that time piece of it. And then 3, it's kind of this nice, you go to bed at night knowing that you're covered in the event that one day you get audited, and somebody comes back and is checking on all these things that you filed. So something to definitely look into, and can more often than not be well worth the cost. The second one here, challenging your property tax assessment. So you've got 2 options for this. One is you can go out there and do this yourself. There's forms, you can download them, fill them out, and go directly and challenge and try to get your property taxes lowered. But there's also law firms out there that will do this for you. And in my experience, I've found that there are many law firms that are willing to not charge you a fee, but instead they'll just split the the potential savings that they can get from it. So there's really no downside to working with them, because it's not going to cost you anything. You just would potentially have to split that savings. I actually just recently got in the mail from another law firm, and I haven't done a ton of research on this one yet, but they were offering a 10-year retainer. So they would, on an annual basis, review the property taxes for our building. And then the agreement is that every time they find savings, they just split those savings with us. And if you think about it from a law firm's perspective, if they're already churning out these forms, it's a great way for them to just collect a little bit of extra money. And for you, it's just one less thing that you have to do. So this can be a great way to reduce some of your expenses, something to look into. If you have the time, do it yourself. If you don't, look into some law firms in your area and see if they can help you out with this. And then the last one here, oops, sorry, Tanvir. We can go over this one quickly because it's probably not relevant to most of you. So refinancing, what we tend to find is that if you can reduce your mortgage by more than 0.5%, then refinancing is a great option for you and can in fact reduce your monthly expenses. If it's less than 0.5%, then you should really do a little bit more research to find out if it's really going to be worth it for you, just due to all the fees that are included. Sometimes that amount's just not worth it. So look into it a little bit if it's less than 0.5%, although I imagine that this does not apply to anyone right now. Just something to keep in mind in the future. Okay, poll question number 3.
Yes. Do you use any of the following for tenant screening? Eviction reports, background checks, income verification, credit check, or local resources? You can pick more than one here. Background checks would be more like criminal, I'm assuming here, right? So hopefully all of you are doing at least that, because that's extremely important. I know credit is always a popular one as well. People always want to know, if they have debt, if they're bankrupt. Those are important things to know. So I'll give you a little bit more time here to answer. All right. So it looks like the winner here is credit checks, although I'm assuming there's some overlap. So let me go ahead and share the results here.
Very good. Okay, so yeah, so it looks like most people are doing credit checks, but a lot of you are doing um, all on the list with not quite as many looking into the local resources. The only one I would add on the local resources is I sometimes use social media.
Yeah.
So I go out and try to find their, Instagram profiles, their Facebook profiles. It's a great way to verify one that people say that people are who they say they are, and to just like get a little bit of a I mean, you don't have to go down a rabbit hole of finding all of the pictures that they've ever posted, but it can be a good way to just better understand the tenant that's trying to rent from your property.
Absolutely.
All right, so minimizing turnover. So this is all about finding good tenants, I think, number one there. And I think, all of those options for screening individuals goes into this as well. So you should really do your homework to try to find the best tenants that you can, ones that are going to pay on time, ones that are going to take care of your property, and then ones that'll hopefully last for as long as you can hold them for, because turnover can be pretty expensive. So definitely use all of those resources, and Nago offers all of those aside from the local resources part. So it's a great partner to do that with. Ways to encourage for keeping good tenants is upgrading your property. One thing you can do is just look online or walking around and see what other properties in your area are offering. Make sure that you're up to date on that. If everybody's got these, nice remodeled, refinished kitchens and yours is pretty outdated, maybe it's something to look into. Or again, we talked about the green appliances. That's a great example. If everyone in your area is switching over and you're the only one yet to do it, maybe it's time to look into doing some of that stuff. So definitely keep tabs on what's going on in your area and see if there's ways that you can upgrade your property to make it so that you get and then retain those good tenants. Giving discounts. This one, I think, the best example that I have that I've used this the most for is with seasonality. So we actually just recently had an individual that moved into one of our units in January. And rather than asking her to sign a 12-month lease, we went to her and we said, we'll waive your move-in fee if you're willing to sign an 18-month lease with us. And the reason that we did that is because it's much easier to find tenants in the summer than it is in the winter. So we would rather, in the event that after 18 months, she says, I'm going to move out, we would rather have that happen in July than have that happen in January and have it potentially sit for a couple of weeks because we have trouble finding somebody to fill it. It's worth the $200 move-in fee that we were going to charge to do that. So that can be a great way to give discounts. I know, Tanvir, I think you actually have an example of.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I actually just happened right before the webinar today, I have a property that's available or going to be available March 1st. The couple that saw the property today, they don't have their move-in date's March 31st, and they wanted the property right away. And I said, look, I'm going to lose a month's worth of rent. That's a lot of money. But what I can do is, why don't we just say your move-in day is March 15th? That way you can start moving some of your stuff over right now. And then when your lease expires at the other place, you're already in your new home, ready to go. And I could see their eyes light up. They were really excited about it. And I think the discount is one thing, but what's more important is understanding that these are your these are your customers. So you need to build a relationship with them. You need to be transparent with them from the beginning. And I think just showing them that you're willing to give a little bit, it's going to go a long way. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be the difference between having to take their whole security deposit, charging them twice their security deposit, things like that. So if they're like, okay, well, if our owners, our property managers look out for us, I'm gonna make sure I look out for that property.
Yeah, I think it's a great example. And speaking of that, I think in terms of showing your tenants, you know, that you're flexible and that you care about them, just skipping to number 5 really quickly. One thing that we do with our properties is we actually give them a gift card around the holidays. So it's not a ton of money. We give them like $25 to $50 depending on the unit. And we just say, hey, thanks for being great tenants. And here's a little gift for you. So thank you for staying with us, for being, you know, a part of our building. And we get thank you notes from people. People stay with us we've had some tenants that have been with us for years and years. And I think that goes a long way. I think, again, it shows that you care about them. And it shows that you want them to stay in the unit. So little things like that can go a long way. Quickly touching before we skip to the next slide on number 4, I hope that all of you are already doing this, but you should collect your rent online if you are not. Don't make your tenants go to the mailbox, write a paper check, go buy stamps, put it on, walk to the mailbox and mail you your check. Not only is it more of a frustration for your tenants because it's this extra work that they have to do, but you also risk them not paying on time. They might, maybe it's not because they're bad tenants, it's just because they forget, because they have to, remember to do this every month. So make it easy on them, make it easy on yourself. Pay your rent electronically, use a property management software like Inago. Let them set up auto pays so that every month they don't even have to think about it. The check just goes out, and it helps you to collect, and it helps them to do their part as well. All right, decreasing vacancies. So as we touched, vacancies are expensive. I'm sure all of you have, those examples of properties that sat for weeks or months, and just watching, that accrue over time. So we want to reduce our vacancies as much as we can. And one thing that we can do is be proactive and be prepared. So if you can, and I think it goes back again to some of the stuff that Tanvir was saying about make sure you check your local and state laws, but look into ways to, I think maybe my headphones went out. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I think maybe it only went out on one side. So look into adding a clause in your lease that says that when the lease is going to expire, that they have to give you 30 days, 60 days, maybe even 90 days if it's allowed, notice that they're planning on moving out. And that way you can start marketing the property, but you can also take the time to go walk through the property and see what type of work you're going to need to do in order to turn it over. It might be something that's an easy spackle paint and clean, or it might be something where you got to do a significant amount of work and you got to line up resources and get the work orders ready in order to get that unit turned. So there's lots of things that you can do to go ahead and be proactive and prepared for when a unit turns over. And then the last thing there is maximizing your marketing efforts. Sometimes this can seem like an expensive thing to do or an unnecessary expense. But again, vacancy is expensive. So if you can pay that little bit of extra to list this or to market it on a site that's going to cost you more but be more effective, consider doing it, because that unit sitting vacant is a lot more expensive than the marketing fee that you're going to have to charge to get that unit rented faster. All right, and then lastly, this is the last section here, kind of just a quick wrap up. So if you want to go to the next slide, a couple of final notes here. One thing that we suggest everyone look into is managing your own property. It's not to say that you can't ever use property management companies, but they're going to charge you about 8 to 12% of your revenue to operate your property for you. What we find is that people get a little bit better educated about their properties if they manage them at first to begin with anyway. And then on top of it, you might find that it's something that you can manage and that you don't need to pay that 8 to 12%. and that you want to do it yourself. Again, property management software is out there that makes this easier for you to do, so that you can save a little bit per month on those costs. Number two, we've already touched quite a bit on minimizing your maintenance costs, but again, continue to look into opportunities to do this. And then lastly, choose the right property management software for you. So Tanvir and I both use Inago. We both work for Inago. So we're big proponents of it. We think it's the right software to use, but do your research, find out the one that works the best for your particular situation and needs. You know, and look into using one. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tanvir, and he's going to just give a little bit more information about Inago and what we offer.
Cool. Thank you, Mary. Good stuff. So we've kind of talked a little bit about Inago, but what is Inago? So Inago, we are a totally free to use property management software. So people usually stop us with free. So I'll talk about how we're free at the end. But the first thing I want to touch on is features. So features in Inago, think of us as the one-stop shop to manage your tenant. So what that means, when you get your property ready for rent, you can list on our software using Zillow, using Realtor.com, Zumper.com, totally for free. If you have over 25 units, Zillow will charge you, but it's going to be totally free on Inago. So once your property is listed, you can use us for applications. I know AAOA also has a great application that you can use as well. So you can, you know, skip the application process on Inago. And then once you have a tenant ready to go, you can bring them onto Inago. You're going to be able to create a lease document, sign that digitally. The tenant can sign it online. You can sign it online as well. And then once the tenant signs documents, what the tenants can do is they can open up maintenance requests, right? They can upload a photo or video of a maintenance issue. You can have back and forth tenant communication. So when something needs done, when the tenant needs to grant access into the property, they can do that through the app. Let's say you're having a barbecue one day, or you're having a pool party. You can send out a mass tenant message to their tenants. They'll receive a push notification on the Inago mobile app, or the desktop version, and you can say, hey, we're throwing a pool party here for Memorial Day, or something like that. And then, you know, as far as other things that you can do is multi-user management. So you can add in your property manager, you can add in your spouse, you can add in your maintenance staff, your accountant, and you can choose which access they have. And let's say that you have 20 properties, and one of them you split with your brother. So you can add your brother, but he'll only have access to the one property that he owns. Mary does that actually with her Inago login. She has some properties with her siblings, but then her and her husband also have a property. So definitely hits home for us. And you know, one thing that I want to talk about before we get into pricing is this one here in the top right hand corner: responsive support. So when you look at software as a whole, software as a service, it's really hard to get in contact with support. So I was in Uber over the weekend. My ride got canceled. I still got charged, and credit card the credit card payment did not fall off yet. And so I was looking on Uber's website. I was like, okay, how do I contact them? Just help@uber.com. No one to call, right? It's on the credit card. Eventually it'll get reversed and everything, but there's no one to call, right? And they're a huge company. The nice thing about Inago is we offer telephone support. So you can call our team Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time, and talk to a live person in the United States. They're happy to help. I think it's our hardest working team at Inago. And if you have questions, they're going to help you as you get onboarded. If your tenants have questions, if they get locked out of their account, if their password needs reset, right? We're going to be there to help you. So take advantage of that, because it's not even just in property management software. It's software as a whole. It's really hard to find phone support. All right. And how are we free? So the way we're free is we charge your tenants for online payments, tenant screening, and renters insurance. Online payments, it's $2 for bank-to-bank transfers, and then 2.99% for debit or credit card transactions. Tenant screening is going to be anywhere from $30 to $45. And then renters insurance is between $5 to $15 per month. It just really depends where the renter lives and what they're trying to insure. The nice thing about Inago with the online payments too, let's say, so I make all my tenants use Inago. So since I don't give them another option, what I do is I take on that $2 fee. So I can just go into settings in Inago. Instead of charging the tenants for online payments, I can take on the fee myself. So that is how we're free. That's our feature. Remember our feature set. Remember, everything with the tenant management process, feel free to use Inago. And Mary and I obviously were invested both personally and work related in Inago, but third parties are best way to look at this. And go ahead and look at the three biggest review sites online: Capterra, G2, and Trustpilot. We're at a 5.0, 5 stars, or as close to 5 stars as possible with all of them. So go ahead, read some reviews. Feel free to talk to us. I'm going to put our contact information at the end of this PowerPoint. But yeah, that's Inago in a nutshell. That's quick information about us. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm going to now check in for Q&A with Alexandria.
Yes, thank you so much for all of that information. Amazing tips. Love how you all summarized that. There was a lot to go over. I hope all of you on the call learned something new. I'm going to start just by the order of which we got these questions. Cindy asking about recommendations about cable TV companies. So I could maybe jump in with one suggestion, which I'm currently talking to DirecTV. They have a pretty neat solution for landlords to basically give bulk discounts and either pass along the savings to the tenants or potentially charge them for it as a revenue source. So that is one company I know for sure. They just started doing it in 2022. It's they're really looking to work with even smaller landlords, which is pretty cool. But that's the first one that came to mind. Do you have any others you'd like to share?
Yeah, Comcast, which is now Infinity, I think they do a great job. I know some of our HOA clients definitely use that. That's the one we see a lot. I've never reached out to YouTube TV, but they're a pretty fluid company, so I'm sure they'll get into that space eventually.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Byron Thomas asking, does the software have built-in services to tenants, or do I need to develop services to tenants and input them in the software?
So not quite sure what services he's referring to.
Well, this was asked at 11:20 a.m., which was about 30 minutes ago. So it might have been somewhere along one of the slides that we may have been covering at that time. We'll have to, he says maintenance specifically.
Maintenance, yeah. So you can manage maintenance requests in Inago. You can push those automatically to your maintenance personnel if you've added them to the software. And then if you need to forward it onto a third party, you can do that as well. We're not going to manage the ticket for you. Obviously, that's really hard with us being in all 50 states. But you can definitely manage the personnel once you find the right person to handle the ticket.
Great. That should save some time. And Swathi asking maybe for Mary, I think you went over the move-in fees. Can you explain more about the move-in fee and what she meant by that?
Yeah, we charge our tenants a move-in fee, so we actually don't collect a security deposit for ours. In Chicago, there's a bunch of requirements around security deposits and keeping it in an interest-bearing account, and it's just a more complicated process. So rather than doing that, we just charge a direct move-in fee that the tenant won't get back. And so we use that for things like all of the things that go into turnover. So cleaning, any of the repairs that have to be done. We use the fee towards that, but it's basically our replacement of using a security deposit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another place, I think Atlanta, Georgia recently also put a lot of restrictions on security deposits. California now limiting the max even further. So there's definitely some ways to get around that. But certainly if you can charge a security deposit, you should. So let's see, Byron asking, how do you overcome the spending limitation of using debit / credit cards?
So the spending limit for the tenant,
Yeah.
I mean, so that's between the tenant. If it's over the amount they can spend, ACH is a $2 charge where they can just add in their bank information with their routing number and check number, and that can be their workaround if their rental amount is higher than their credit card limit.
Okay, that makes sense. Sheila asking, would we get a Schedule E report at the end of the year?
So you get a 1099-K at the end of the year, but the good old IRS, they change the way they do things on an annual basis. So for right now, you have to have you have to have $2,000, which anyone who collects rent, usually will get $2,000, but you also have to have 200 transactions for us to issue a 1099-K. So if you do not hit that threshold, the nice thing in Inago is you can export any page. So you can take everything from your income report, you hit the export button in the top right-hand corner, and now you have a CSV file that you can give to your CPA, or you can use those numbers to put directly into the Schedule E.
Great, great. Rodney asking, does the software allow for mass texting?
So not mass texting yet. That's something that we're looking into and our product team's trying to roll out by the end of the year. But what we
Nice.
did do last year is in our mobile app, it's going to be just like Facebook Messenger. So you can message blast, like I was saying, like if there's a party at the pool or something like that, you can send out a mass text. You can send it by unit. You can send it just to one individual tenant. And it's like a Facebook Messenger where you can message people back and forth and you guys can receive push notifications on your mobile device.
I'm so excited for that feature. That's awesome. David and Gerard here, does your software have app capabilities for voice or photo capture?
So for photo capture, yeah, you can upload anything to Inago. So maintenance requests, tenants can upload photo, video, obviously record a voice memo to that, upload that. And then on the back end, on your side, what you can do is you can upload any photo, any video, and then a voice file as well in your documents and files.
Great. Yeah, he said receipts, I think. I think that might be the
Yeah,
typo
for
there.
sure.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good receipts on the go, he says.
Absolutely.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
Um, and we have another question here from Peter. Every well, it was a comment. He said, every 3 months I escort the pest prevention technician into the apartment and I change the filters. Every other month, the filter is left at their door. I think that's just
Mhm.
awesome just to have a policy in place. And I know someone else in the chat said, well, how do you make sure that the tenants are actually replacing those AC filters? And Ronnie said, well, they won't. What has your experience been with that? Enforcing.
I've
Mary,
had
you want to go
success
ahead?
with it for for our units. Like I said, we use the Inago feature and send out a reminder. So we're not leaving it to them to remember, hey, every month you've got to change your filter. We are reaching
Mhm.
out to them and we've educated them as well that hey, this is going to help your bill, like this is going to help you
Right.
keep the heat. This is going to give you, cleaner energy. And so that's helped with it. And we've been able to get our tenants to do it. And it's an easy task to do as well. It's not like you're asking them to go out and do something that's going to take them an hour to get it done. So
Right.
we've been able to, we haven't had any issues with it.
Certainly can't hurt to educate them about it and hopefully give them the resources to do it. Okay, Sheila asking, what do you mean by lease termination fees? Is that if they move out early, thereby
Mhm.
breaching the lease, or did you mean something else?
Yeah. Yep. If they move out early,
Yeah.
that's exactly right, Sheila.
All right. What would be like a typical termination fee? How do you all determine that?
So what we've seen is 1 month is common. Sometimes 2 months, 2.5, and I've even seen it go all the way to 3 months. Again, we're in all 50 states, so we've seen leases from every state. And the nice thing about Nago is we provide state leases too, so that might already be in there in the state lease.
Nice.
But check with your state and local law. I know that sounds like the only thing Mary and I say, but like we're all in this big country of the United States, and laws are different in every jurisdiction. So check your state and local law first.
Well, David asked early on in the webinar, I'm sure you answered this, if what property management software that's cloud-based for 20 units is favorable. Well, we love Inago for that. But if you specifically want to talk about why Inago is good for about that, unit count, or, it just seems like such a
Mm-hmm,
flexible platform.
mm-hmm, sure. Mary, you want me to go, or you want to take a stab at it?
Well, I think I'll just talk from my personal experience first.
Yeah.
So I was just saying this on another webinar that we did. When I first started using Inago, we actually had bought our property and there was already tenants living in the building. So we grandfathered in the whole process of what they were using. So we continued to collect rent in the previous method that they were using, which I think we were doing Zelle payments. But we went ahead and got Inago because it's free, and so we started to collect all of our expenses through Inago and just really got organized, which was really helpful in terms of managing your building. And then as soon as those tenants moved out, the next thing that we did was we initiated our applications through Inago, which is also really great because then the tenants are automatically in the system. And so then when you go ahead and approve them, you can set them up to collect rent, and it's this very streamlined, easy process. And so for me, that just made Inago just an easy one to use. I got familiar with it before I ever paid anything. And then to this day, I don't pay anything because we put it, we leave it with the tenants to pay that $2 ACH fee or the 2.99% credit card. So for me, it's just been, you know, it's been an easy platform to use, easy to get up to speed in, and just makes managing properties smoother and more organized.
Nice. And
Yeah,
it is
yeah, and
cloud-based, of course.
Yep. And then one thing to add there. So when we started Inago, our target market was 1 to 1,000 units. What we find best is, or what is in, but 1 to 1,000 units is the person who owns one is a lot different than the person who owns 500 compared to the person who owns 1,000. But the nice thing about Inago is, I think if you have under 100 units, it works great. If you have over 100 units, it works great. And you know, the proof is in the pudding there, because our smallest landlord has 1 unit and our largest has over 4,000 on the platform. So 20 units is not going to be a problem. And the nice thing is, as you grow your portfolio, or even if you decrease your portfolio, Inago is going to be a great fit for you.
That's great. Okay. Byron asked, do I have to use a lease document on my account in Inago, or does Inago have a lease document built in?
We just
So yeah.
launched lease documents, actually.
Nice.
I think it was in December. Yeah. So you can upload your own documents if you already have them or you have a custom lease written the way that you want. But if you want just standard state-by-state leases, we do offer them within Inago. If you're not an Inago user, we also offer them direct on our website. So feel free to check them out there as well.
Nice. Sheila asking, are there options to categorize our expenses for tax purposes? That's a
yes.
Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, the answer is yes.
Awesome.
You can categorize it all through Inago, and that's exactly what I use it for. It's for tax purposes.
Oh,
Then I have it
nice.
all categorized. I send it over to the accountant, and he takes it from there.
That tax season can be so, I mean, we're all in it now. It can be so stressful to go backwards. It's nice if it's already all in one place. You've already been categorizing. Some of it gets automatically categorized. So much time saved. Okay. Byron, how can I make a link to put on my website for tenants? And I'm guessing for applications purposes.
Yep. So in the Inago application builder, there's 2 ways you can send it out. You can send it out via email or URL. So what you'll do is you'll just take the URL, copy and paste it, and then put it on your website.
Awesome. Easy peasy. Also, Eric asking the best place to find accurate rent comps.
I would go with your peers. It seems like online. I always check Zillow first personally, Realtor.com second, and then Apartments.com third.
Yeah, I use well, it's pronounced 2 different ways, Rentometer or Rentometer. They're great too. They'll pull up you know, some comp reports for you if you just put in a few details. They have a free version and then a more detailed version if you know, want more comps or you're using it on a more regular basis. I think the free version is limited on how many reports you can pull. But that's a really good one too, just to kind of know what everyone else is doing. But definitely play around with it and don't just stay with the same rent amount or kind of guess. There's lots of information out there today, so we might as well use it. So let me go ahead and close that out. It doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in. I'll give you all just a last chance while I make some closing comments. But as I mentioned at the beginning, Dorothea asking about rent tiers. Okay, rent tiers. That's all she said. Do you have any comments on rent tiers?
Yeah, I think what we were talking about earlier in the presentation, when it comes to rent tiers, first understand your market. Some neighborhoods you can get more money for. If it's a new build, if the property is only 2 years old, you know, take advantage of that. There's people that are willing to pay a premium. And then for other properties that are older that, you know, you don't need to renovate as much, obviously you can offer it at a lower rate and you're going to find a different type of tenant, but both of them are going to, as long as they pay rent on time, right, we're happy, right? So just create the tiers based on the geographic location and then what the property, the what features the property has and how new it is.
Definitely. Okay, good advice.
Mhm.
Swathi, let me type in the website that I just mentioned, rentometer.com. I'm going to send that over. Also, Randall asking how he can contact you for more information. So we will be sending you all a follow-up email that has the link to go over to the Inago site. But is
Mhm.
there a contact email, I guess, that we'll be sharing as well tomorrow? I think maybe
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah, we can share mine and we can also share webinar at inago.com. As I said, I'm on the sales team, so I'm in and out of the office, but I have a member of the marketing team and customer service team also manages that inbox. So they'll be able to help if I'm unavailable.
Okay, wonderful. Um,
Mhm.
what does Inago mean? That's a good question from Mez. Um, I think it's just a fun name, but is there a meaning behind it, Tanvir?
I don't know, ask the marketing director over there. No,
What
There
does
isn't a
Google
meaning
mean?
behind it.
Okay.
Right.
yeah,
What does any of it mean anymore? He's laughing.
right.
Okay, Eric
Yeah.
Marquez, another good question. When increasing rents, do you give the tenants a detailed explanation of the rent increase, why you're doing it, or you just do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do it for sure. Because you got to be transparent with
I
them,
think so.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think transparency is important. I think, some of us get a little shy or scared to build in some rent increases, but it certainly isn't the most fun topic to talk about. But, we just have to talk about it. It's a lot better than just receiving a very bland notice, right? So in any case, again, we'll be sending you the recording tomorrow, the contact info, the slides, and hopefully y'all learned something. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous in the chat. Thank you. This was so helpful. So I'm so glad that you all are learning something. You know who to talk
Mhm.
to for your rent strategies and property management software needs. Inago is completely free, so it doesn't hurt to try it out. And I believe y'all are still giving $25 to our members who try Inago. I think we
That is
may
correct.
have forgotten to mention that. So if you do use Inago, you do get a gift card for trying it. And what's great about that, it's if you use the rental payment collecting method, which I mean, I'm on
Correct.
board with you, Mary. Like if you all aren't using that yet, you need to be. Like online rent collection is just so much better for handling rental payments, and you're more likely to get people to pay you on time if you make it easier. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's definitely a feature I would use on Inago. And again, that's a fee that can get passed on to the tenant. You can use it for free. There really is no fee to the landlord. So check it out, inago.com/AAOA. And we'll go ahead and send that to you in the email tomorrow as well. If I missed anything, Tanvir and Mary, do you want to say anything else before we head out?
No, I don't. Thank you so much for having us as a guest.
Okay, great. And David asks about cash payments. You can record cash payments in the software, I'm
Yep,
assuming. Okay,
absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, this is it for today. I'll be in touch, and thank you so much for joining and sticking around. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.